Listen up. That was a good game. We all showed up, and I'm proud of that.
Coach McGurk, I was just wondering, how come they canceled the game after 10 minutes?
Well, because we were losing by 20 goals, Melissa. It's called the slaughter rule. You know, Melissa, if we played the full game, we probably would have lost by 100 goals. I don't know why I'm saying we. I wasn't out there running around like it was the first time I ever used my legs. Melissa.
Okay.
You know, it's like when they stop a boxing match because the guy's bleeding too much, you know, all cut up. Only this was worse. I mean, fractured jaws get wired shut. Broken noses become badges of courage. Melissa.
Okay.
But to lose by 20 goals in 10 minutes is... Oh, forget it. You played a good game.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
Ahoy, tent pirates, plant parents, conscious consumers, and the morbidly curious. Welcome to Cultivation Conversation, a podcast for growers by growers. Come chat with our hosts, Captain Autoflower, the Real Green Monster, and myself, Girl Go Grow. Grab a bouquet of your favorite flowers, apparatus of choice, and don't forget the fire while I tell you about the special companies that help keep this ship afloat. We are busy people, and we demand the best for our plants, so all three of us automate our grows with Autopots. Available in over 63 countries, gravity-powered Autopot systems rely on no pumps, no timers, and no power to operate. This plant-driven automated watering is so precise, it will reduce consumption of feed while increasing yield. An effective and efficient way to delegate a little responsibility. Let your plants feed themselves. Use code CC10 at autopot-usa.com. If quality is the name of your game, look no further than AC Infinity. AC Infinity's grow tents, lights, accessories, and ventilation systems offer reliability and affordability along with total environmental control. Use code Cultivation on acinfinity.com to save even more. Frass Valley produces the highest quality superworm frass. Naturally strengthen your plants and enhance their resistance to pests and disease. Use code CC10 at frassvalley.com. We are big fans of mass hydroponics. Whether you're a local in Massachusetts or accessing their full online catalog, they are your one-stop shop for all of your growing needs. Use code CC10 at mass-hydro.com.
What is going on, everybody out there in podcast land?
Hello, my darlings.
Heidi ho.
What up, what up, what up?
What up?
Happy Thursday. It is not Tuesday for all you stoners out there on Twitch. Don't be confused. Don't be late to a meeting. Don't miss your doctor's appointment. It was us who missed Tuesday night.
You can always blame us.
Mm-hmm.
My fault entirely. I had way too much to drink in the sun.
Too much fun.
I am not the young man I used to be either.
On this seat, man, it's easy to overdo it.
Good Lord. But yeah, cheers to that. No, I had a rough night, and this is not even a beer, guys. Actually, no, it's definitely a beer.
A little hair of the dog.
Just gotta settle the nerves a little, you know. We're going live. It's a little stressful, but
Every
for
time.
real,
Man, seriously. I've been doing this for over a year now, every single time.
listen, I knew I wasn't good enough to do the show on Tuesday when the thought of having one of these with you guys made me want to. So I waited, and I appreciate everyone out there
We appreciate
being
that. Too.
patient. Being patient. So what's going on, guys? What's going on with you?
Just rocking and rolling.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Summer treating you good?
It's honestly been a kind of a crappy summer for me, but we'll make up for it. We'll have a Indian summer, as they like to say, and get to do some fun stuff. I haven't got much chance to go out on my old man's boat. I think we've taken it out like 5 or 6 times. I haven't done much fishing, but I mean, well, shit's going on, and when business is taken care of, I'll get to relax a little bit. It's just tough to, you get kind of like I don't know, like FOMO, like missing out on shit. Like Turp
sure.
Town Throwdown is going to be this weekend in Spencer. I talked about it a lot. I'm not actually going to be able to make it, so I'm a little bummed out about that. But looking forward to the Freedom Rally in September, which is a great event as well. So, it'll all work out for the best.
Yeah, I know you got a lot going on at the home front right now, so that's always the priority.
Yep, family first, man.
For sure. How about you, G3?
Yeah, things are good. We just recorded with the Circle Boys from Your Average Grow. That was super fun. I love them. They're my favorite. Besides you guys, of course. But yeah, great time as always. So if you guys ever want to check it out, it's on like Spotify and all of that good stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, that's the Your Average Grow podcast. Yeah. Found wherever your finer podcasts are found. So yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I'm sure there's a bunch of witches in the artwork, right?
Yep, there is. For sure.
I always love to go the witch route when I'm G3
pretty sure
joins them.
At least 4, not 5.
Nice. All right.
So yeah,
they do the
quantity of witches, I've heard.
AI generated artwork they do for every episode, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
Pretty cool. So, what you guys got in the pipes, bongs, bowls, joints?
I'm puffing on some anaphylaxis by Mass Medical.
What is that you have, Monster?
This?
Yes.
Bong? Yeah, look at
what
that.
Is
You've never
that?
seen the bong?
It doesn't
my bong.
Bzzzt.
Oh, I still got that. I mean, I'll never stop smoking flower. I mean, I know people have been breaking my balls lately, calling me.
I just haven't
seen it in a bit.
Forever.
Yeah, in the mood to smoke some flower. So here we are.
Good on
Anaphylaxis
you,
by Mass Medical.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Cheers. How about you, G3?
I had a little bit of double smile and a little bit of double grape. So,
yeah. What do you what do you like better? I mean, do you like the combo better, or
I like the combo of them, honestly. Double grape by itself is great. I don't find her particularly she's really even keel all the way through. I don't find her particularly stellar in any one area. She's super frosty, so she looks like she would be a dumper, but I don't do that with her. She just stays as flower. I like her a lot. She's just super chill. The double smile is more happy and upbeat, but she can make me a little spacey.
You're already enough spacey.
I know.
I would think.
We don't exacerbate them. So let's keep it in control, baby.
Yeah. Well, I always like one that makes me feel spacey. I don't know. That's a good descriptor word for effects. Spacey.
Yeah, she just kind of makes I don't know. She kicks my ADHD up a notch, and that's not necessarily good for show nights. I kind of need to pay attention.
I hear that.
Yeah. What about you, Cap?
Hear that. Well, I got a nice big old cone of some Violet Beauregard. Number 2. The Keeper.
Beauty.
That never was kept.
The Keeper that wasn't kept. Exactly.
That wasn't.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I can taste, right on the inhale, as soon as I, give it that dry pull. I get the blueberry coming right off up front, and then it's all that funk and that extra, that umami, let's call it, on the back end, that just it all carries through in the flavor on this one, which is just, I don't know.
It's amazing.
Flavor is one of those things, everyone's got their secrets, I guess. Everyone's got their secrets.
It's funny with the dry pull. It's one of my favorite things to do with a joint is the dry pull and the flavor you get from it. And I've blown people's minds before when I'm like, oh, take a dry pull of that. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, like take a puff without without lighting it. And they just look at me like, what? And I show and I'm like, just taste that. And they're like, oh, wow.
It's like smelling the cork out of a bottle of wine.
Yeah, it's a great comparison, actually.
It's a true like connoisseur move, though. You know that's it does take a person who appreciates their cannabis to like we care about the terps. You know, we care about flavor.
Yeah, and I can tell right before I even light the thing if it's gonna taste good or not, just based on that. You know, it's funny because like I get joints passed to me all the time at events and stuff like that, and that's the first thing I'll do before I light it. It's like, oh, how does the dry pull taste? If it doesn't excite me, I ain't gonna light it. I might even throw it in the trash.
You might even throw it in the trash, like right in front of them.
No, not in front of me.
Yo, fuck this weed. Fuck
you've
this
ever handed
fucking
me,
mids.
See, that's garbage.
What are you
ever
passing
handed
me,
weed
man?
In public, there's a chance that I've thrown it away. Just saying. I'm pretty picky. Like, you know, if it doesn't have terps, I'm good. Like, I have no need to smoke it. I don't care how pretty it looks. It's got to have, flavor, or I'm just really not interested. You know?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And
if joints,
especially.
Don't share it. So.
People pass around joints all the time at events, and like that's the first thing I'll do is take a little dry pull, and if I get nothing, I probably threw it away. Sorry. Not sorry.
Just like, oops, I dropped it. I don't know where it went. I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
You guys are probably better off not smoking that trash anyway.
Yeah.
Fucking
like,
mids
oh
this
man,
guy
I want you
brought.
to try this. I grew this, and it's funny too. It always comes with a story. Like, oh, I, grew this like 74 days and nice slow dry, and this has been curing for 2 months, and like I'll just take a puff, like a dry pull on it, and it doesn't taste good. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'll go smoke that later. Fucking trash.
Right, dude. And then, so after, once you got the joint going, then for me, what I look at is, how it burns evenly throughout. Mm-hmm. Also, that nice oil ring, if you can see that.
100%. Gotta look for that oil ring.
Right around the top, underneath the ash, is that very resinous, all the signs of like, honestly, a joint might be the best way to truly appreciate the product that you're smoking, the flower. What do you say?
I've gone back and forth with this between joint and bong. I'd probably lean towards joint myself, but I don't know.
Depends on my mood.
There's so many variables with the bong, right?
Depends on the weather.
If you want to get the best flavor out of your bong, that shit's got to be clean, fresh water, the whole 9 yards. A joint, just roll it up, and unless you roll that shit with an easy wider. Stop buying easy wider papers, people, please. Like, if you want to use old school, use zigzags. Like, they're so thick. It's like I can literally taste a difference. It to me, like, I reckon it to like rolling it with like fucking printer paper. Like, seriously. Easy wider papers are fucking dog shit. The regular brown ones, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. They make like fins and stuff like that, but you just never see them. I have a buddy of mine, shout out Anthony. That's how he rolls with the easy wider double wides, dude.
Really?
Yeah, and he
rolls a lot of paper.
Dude, it's a retarded amount of paper. It's just too
out
much.
Of a phone book.
And I can like taste like it's just like this extra little burn on the back of my throat from like that paper. Like, I'm serious. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, I forget what these are. They're the raw cones.
Yeah.
I don't get the fancy ones, the organic ones or anything. But this is, just the right amount of paper. I don't feel like I can taste it at all.
No, those cones usually do. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're nice, man.
Yeah.
And shout out to Joint, man. Shout out to Joint who breeds the Violet Beauregard. Check out his site. It's jcuniversal.link. He just put up some new stuff too. I'm pretty sure you can still get the Violet Bee. Don't know if you'll get number 2, but you can try. You can always try, and you can keep her if you do, right? you can keep her. Well, shit. Now I'm gonna get way too high smoking this thing. Holy fuck.
Yep.
No, what I wanted to say, because you were talking about rolling joints with bad paper. You guys ever use? All right. Back in my like rebellious, high school phase, and I was a little bit of a badass. Rolled a couple joints out of Bible paper.
Oh yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not really proud of it, but I'm not a religious person, so it didn't really mean anything to me.
It was like I didn't have any of the verses on it. I swear, it wasn't like the gospel, man. It was like those maps in the back. All those maps that no one gives a rat's ass about. I used those.
Yeah, I just ripped a page. Didn't even look.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I did do that.
Yep.
I'll probably be judged.
You know what else I
pearly
used?
gates.
And I'll probably be judged fucking by just people. Tampon wrapper.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, whoa.
I mean, it's just paper.
Yep. We were desperate one day and we used a tampon
It's
wrapper.
actually really
Not-
thin paper.
So not the plastic that it comes in.
No,
No.
the paper.
Outside wrapper.
It's a they're I think now they're probably
yeah.
surrounded in plastic. It's just
Nice
paper.
work, MacGyver.
Yeah, with a little bit of molasses to help it stick.
Little molasses.
Clever.
Yeah,
That's
it was like
true.
13.
Tampon wrappers and molasses. That's grandma's old recipe. Ain't nothing like it in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, well, waste not, want not, I guess.
Yeah, it's not like I would go out and do it again. And it was like this is the day when you're too young to go to the store and buy a pack of papers. They're not going to sell you a pack of papers. And you usually, you tried to go to your parents' room when they weren't looking and steal a few. But that only went so far, People don't realize the struggle that, if you're like my age, around 40, right? People don't, and you were smoking as a teenager. The struggle was real.
Oh, yeah.
We
We had to use what we got, man.
No, yeah, and then just finding herb too. You know what I mean?
That was half the battle.
It was always a crapshoot whether it was just going to be complete garbage or not.
Oh my god, a good plug was worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And I could count on one hand, truly, the times I got that good plug, and all the rest of the time I was smoking whatever the fuck I got. From whoever I was lucky enough to find it from,
Luckily and unluckily, I grew up in the hood, so it wasn't too hard finding grass, but still, it was always it wasn't one of those things where it was always consistent. That's for damn sure. You were going to 12 different people. There was no loyalty on the streets. Who had it that day at this day?
Mm-hmm.
We're just kids. We're not working. We're not on anyone's schedule. We want, you score $20. You want a bag of herb. Who's got herb? You know what I mean? It's phone call, knock on door. Oh yeah, fucking the fourth person answers. Here we go. Here's 20.
Dude, we were calling people's pagers.
Man.
Standing by the 7-Eleven payphone waiting for a fucking call back.
Them were the days. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it made it a little fun, I guess. Just kind of gave us a hobby.
And then most people don't remember this either, but in the summertime there was always a drought.
Oh,
there was always a time where it was tough to find herb, especially after 9/11, when it was tougher to get the Mexican brickies and shit like that. There was always a drought in the summertime because it was right before harvest. So for a lot of people,
true.
Yeah. Them were the day. Now, dude, drought. There ain't no such thing. In October, we already have a glut, but in October, it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
I see all sorts of Cali surplus going around, dude, and it's fucking $300 and $500 a pound, and that's here. All right, so that's the Cali surplus price here. That means it left Cali for like $150, $200 a pound. And dude, I don't know how anybody's fucking making any money doing that.
People paid for good, like you said, like a good plug was worth their weight in gold, and they could charge whatever price they wanted because basically they knew their product was worth its weight in gold. It was, what's an ounce of gold worth? Fuck.
You know, I should know this too.
I don't
know. It varies.
It's more than an ounce of weed now. I mean, but at the time, back in those days, it might have been that weed was more than an ounce of gold.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Even back then, I mean, I saw a thing on it's like 60 Minutes or something that marijuana was the largest cash crop in the world. And this was like in the late 90s. So, yeah.
That's right. Marijuana.
Yeah.
It's bad for you. So I wanted to get into some grow topics tonight, guys. Is
that what we do around here?
A little bit.
Sometimes.
We want to talk grow. We want to talk grow. We want to stay focused on teaching people how to grow weed, which is really one of the healthiest hobbies you could have, in my opinion.
Certainly.
So it's very easy to start, by the way. Go listen to some of our other episodes. You'll get a sense of how to start easily. But yeah, tonight I want to talk about some of the more controversial growing subjects out there. I want to talk about just things you often hear people arguing about online. And for sake of conversation, you know, like there's a lot of them. You know, first thing we could get into on that note is, so the reason why, in my opinion, the weed that I grow is so tasty, so delicious in a joint, has so many terpenes, a lot of resin, you know, just, it's fucking dank, guys. It's good shit. I would argue that a lot of the flavor and the reason why it tastes so great is because I grow organically. There are a lot of people who disagree. But I think there's some merit to that. We could start right there. Does organic growing make for a better product in the end?
100% not. And I think it may be slightly easier to get good flavor with organics. It depends on how you do it, but if done right, you can get the same flavor, if not better, with salts and organics. A little bit of best of both worlds.
Like a synganic or an orgthetic approach, as we like to call it. But mostly you hear people call it synganic.
I think there's a best of both worlds approach. And, you know, I'm a science guy, right? Like I like to think of things logically, right? And, you know, the thing about salts, you know, gets a little bit of a bad rap, right? But what people don't understand is when you feed your plant organic matter, doesn't matter what it is, it has to convert it into a salt in order to utilize it. So I just prefer to skip that step and you know, give it everything it needs, along with some, you know, organics as well.
So you don't think that extra step that the plant has to do might possibly create something else in the plant, some other secondary compound that isn't present when you like stick a needle in the plant's arm and directly feed it its food?
I could say for sure, but like some of the things I've noticed, like when it comes to, especially let's just talk about autoflowers. Okay, let's stick with them. I see so many tiny fucking plants. It like kind of bothers me, you know, like when I know that if you had fed that thing lightly from the beginning with some salts and kept upping the dosage, it would have been a monster plant. To be honest with you, Captain, there ain't many people besides yourself that are really growing big, huge, like autoflower plants. I feel like people stunt the shit out of them.
It's easy
Oh.
to stunt autoflowers.
It is.
I've got a
and
3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot monster in my 4x4, and she's an autoflower and she's an organics.
Yeah, it's tough though, and like you know,
and I thank you again. Well, thank you first for the compliment, but I want to just say I stunt autos too. I have 2 stunted autos in my tent right now. So I don't always grow big ones, but like it is extremely easy. Like we all do it. We all do it.
I think that let's like a lot of my friends grow organically, and we exchange herb, and the consensus is, is even among them is like, no, like your shit's just as dank as mine, and you're growing with salts, and theirs is equally as dank. I appreciate good organically grown autoflower, or any flower for that matter. I just don't think that you have to grow that way
it's not inherently better.
No, I don't think so at all.
I think they're 2 completely different styles. I think it's so hard to compare them.
I think if you over fertilize with salts, your shit's gonna come out tasting like cardboard and hay. Like I see people push their plants too hard to the point where their plants are like burnt. You can look at them like the last like inch of leaf is all burnt off. It's shriveled, like when the leaves shrivel into the buds themselves. You can see it in the end product. You see like tiny little speckles of yellow that like it would take them forever to get all that out because the leaves all died. Like you're just looking at a bud, right? You know what I mean? Like when you see people's end of life plant photos, autos or photos, all you see is like the bud, like all the leaves have shriveled and died because they've pushed that plant
over fertilized or under fertilized.
Usually it's not under when it comes to that point. You'll see like fade, and you'll still see some like fan leaves and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it just kind of depends on the grower. I think it may be a little bit harder to get good flavor with salts. I can admit that. Because I've smoked so much salt weed that just tastes like garbage. But I think if done right, there is a best of both worlds approach.
Like it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree to that.
I like it. Yeah, G3, that's your...
Yeah, I mean, kind of, you do you.
Not firmly on either side, not like that kind of...
I personally like...
Plant your flag somewhere.
One of my favorite things to do when I first started growing was comparison grows. So I would take the same strain, I know they're autoflowers, it's not exactly the same, but the same strain, and I'd grow one plant in organics and I'd grow one plant in salts, and I'd compare them. And 3 grows in a row I did this, and for 3 grows in a row I preferred the product that I got from the organic plant. So I switched to completely organics because it works better for me. Because I don't care what works better for you. Whatever works in your garden is what works in your garden.
It's whatever works, but what might give you the best tasting flower in the end is organic growing, as far as I'm concerned. We all know how I feel about that, but I don't know. It's again, like it's people go back and forth. It's guys, I think Monster might have put it right in the middle perfectly, which is that it might just be easier to get better tasting product with organics. And there is something to be said for, like, Monster does use a synganic approach. So there are a lot of organic inputs, mostly those microbes, right?
Mm-hmm. Teas.
Yeah, teas, microbes, all that good shit. So...
But I mean, like, people wouldn't be growing with the complete Athena program with 0 microbes and like basically sterile soil according to the program if it didn't at least give you fire at the end. Like if it gave you cardboard, nobody would use it.
For instance,
if that's what you're going for.
Fresh Connection in Fitchburg grows amazing flower, and they grow with all salts in soil. No microbes. because they don't want to fail testing. So they use 0 microbes,
Mm.
just salts, Athena, and they're crushing it. They're growing fire flower.
Right. So
I mean, like, it's. I think you need to know how to grow is the bottom line, because I've smoked organic flower too that tastes like fucking hay. Like, again, too, let's not forget that a good majority of one person's flavor in their herb is going to come from how they dry it.
Amen. The dry for me is like at least 50% of
Yeah,
where
I'd
the
lean
flavor.
towards like even
More.
70, because
yeah.
dude, that's why it's probably the thing I preach the most on this show is the dry and how important it is, because I'll never forget what I did to one of my first crops. It was amazing. Shit was like retarded. Like, people were fucking doing backflips, couldn't wait for it. I dried it in like 3 or 4 days, dude, and it was garbage.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to smoke it. I ended up just
Man.
throwing it away because it got like old after like a year.
Sucks.
So
It's
like
something that haunts you forever.
it does. So like ever since then, I always said, no, I'm never gonna let that happen to me again, and I take the dry extremely seriously. And here's the other thing, I've talked about this before, going back to the dry. I'm so fucking busy that I have plants sitting in a dry room right now. They've been there for 5 weeks. 5 weeks, just chilling in that 60-60 environment. And I went and checked on them the other day. I grabbed a bud, let it sit on my dashboard for an hour while I was taking care of some shit, rolled up a joint. It tasted amazing. So
That's no longer a dry room. That's a cure room.
well, yeah. See, that's what we're aiming for, to get this plant into the jar anyway. So
It's a big old jar.
Yeah, the whole at that point, the room is just a climate-controlled jar, 100%.
Yeah, dude, dry is so important. So important. I think, someone said it in the chat, which I want to highlight, just like, to sum up the segment here. I think we can all agree some organic element in your grow is pretty good for like enhancing flavor. Whether you're going to grow all organic or not, I think microbes bring the dank. I think one of our prior episodes is called "The Stank Bringeth the Dank." So any kind of whether it be microbes or, dude, I've seen people just use chicken manure, straight up chicken manure, and that shit stank.
Yeah, it has to be composted first, but chicken shit is amazing fertilizer.
Stuff you can buy, just like the biotone, like in the bag.
Actually, Miracle Grow Organic. If you flip over it's like comes in a bag. If you flip it over, that's all it is. It's chicken shit.
Really?
You can buy it at Home Depot. My father used to buy it all the time.
No shit.
Yep, they've been selling it for years.
Fertilizer.
Just says Miracle Grow.
Just chicken shit.
That's all my father would use in his garden for years.
Yeah?
That was it. He would till it into the soil before we planted, and then that's it. Water after that.
Nice.
For years. And my dad always had amazing gardens.
That's what's up. What up, Pops? And shout out to Cobweb in the chat, reminding us about those microbes. So yeah, we're talking terps, right? So, well, we're talking microbes. Microbes. One of the things you hear a lot when you're growing, when you're starting out, is that like, you're going to kill your microbes if you do blank. You're going to kill all your microbes if you water with water that you didn't check on if there's chlorine or chloramine, right? So there's two things, chloramine and there's chlorine. Chloramine is very bad, but it's also very uncommon. You probably don't have that in your tap water. Probably just have chlorine. Okay? And yeah, it's not like going to promote microbe growth or reproduction in any way, shape, or form. But it's also not going to kill all your fucking microbes. No, sir. Tap water is not going to kill all your microbes. The amount of chlorine in your tap water is so insufficient, it's like a fart in a hurricane compared to a good, healthy colony of microbes in your soil doing its thing. So don't worry about the chlorine. That is
I would agree. Chloramine, you do have to worry about a little bit more. And I'd say if I had to guesstimate, it's probably at about 15% of people's water supply. Some municipalities still use it for some unbeknown reason to me, but most people are using chlorine. And yeah, you may, let's say, kill a few of the microbes, but guess what those other microbes are doing that didn't die? They're just breeding and continuing on. Like, you're not going to kill everything with general tap water, unless you're, maybe some shit from like Newark,
from Flint, Michigan. One of those hoods with that tap water you can light on fire. You don't want that.
Yeah,
easy solution. Get your water tested. Get a filter.
Yeah, right. You can look at your water under a microscope too, and see some pretty funky shit. You may or may not want to do that, but yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I would say don't worry about the chlorine in your water. What, again, I'm sorry, G3, what do you have to say about that? Do you check? Do you allow your tap water to dechlorinate? Do you use just mountain spring water blessed by the moon spirit?
Yep, that.
Has to be under the full moon for 48 hours.
I mean, I do prefer to use moon water. So my water does tend to sit out at times, and I fill a res. So, yeah, basically that.
So you do let it sit out.
It does, but that's just because I'll fill up all of my 5-gallon buckets and then put them under the moon, and then fill my res with that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, mine sits out just for secondary reasons.
All right.
But when I moved into my house, I had my water tested, and it doesn't have any chloramine in it, and I use filtered water.
Yeah, that's the other thing. A good carbon filter on your water will remove most of the chlorine.
Mm-hmm. Just don't use distilled water.
No, you can, but I mean, it's the same thing as using RO water.
It takes so many good things in the water are stripped out through both RO and distilled. So yes, you can use them. Just make sure that you put those things back in.
I would 100% agree with you. I actually
point.
stopped using all the RO. I was using RO at every place I ran, just so I could have that starting factor of 0 and know where the water was at. However, most of the locations I was struggling to keep up with, those trace minerals and calcium. So yeah, if you're using RO, I'd think about it again. Do you really need that RO? And it wastes a shit ton of water, and it takes forever. And
what is it like for every? Is it half the water that goes through the system actually comes out as
they're a little bit more
water?
efficient now that there's different ways to do it. I still set them up for people. I always advise against them in most cases. There are some cases where the water's just that bad, where you just need to run RO and then be mindful of it. But no, there's, for instance, the last chamber on an RO system is the RO itself. Okay, the membrane. You can take your wastewater line, which comes out of that membrane, and literally feed it to another membrane. So then that waste is going through the other RO membrane. So you're they call it a double membrane system. And then the waste line out of the second membrane. So you're getting less waste that way. But they're still they take forever. Your standard RO system is, I think it's a gallon a minute. If you're lucky. And that's That's fucking takes the. You know,
Unnecessary.
you got them set with float switches that sometimes fail. Like every grower that's run RO on an automatic float on a backup reservoir has come into a flood. I fucking guarantee it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of extra gear that you're gonna have to worry about failing on you.
Yeah.
Number one, like, which is arguably unnecessary if you just understand that, like, the tap water is likely not going to hurt your microbes. We can just add them back, or add some microbe food like some molasses or something, keep them going a little bit more. But yeah, like that was actually, I wanted to talk about RO in that sense too. Like, and I think we already answered it, and I think our answer is yes. But like, one of the questions is, does RO water take out the nutrients that are already in your medium?
No, but you're gonna have to feed more than you normally would. You're gonna have to make up for that difference. 100%.
Are you
especially in the
asking if
department.
RO strips minerals from the soil as it passes through?
Like, yes, I mean, it's a solvent. Like, there's nothing
possible
in the water, so everything
because
needs
there's
to
nothing
bond
there,
to
so
it.
there's a void,
Yeah,
so that
like,
it
Yeah.
strips nutrients from the soil as it passes through it. That's an interesting concept. I never thought of that.
Water wants to mineralize, so it's possible.
And there's 0 ppm, so like it needs to like have something bonded to it. So like that's why I mean, and you said it yourself, G3, like when if you're going to use distilled or RO, you have to like be mindful of it. You have to replenish. You have to use a little bit more nutrient in most cases, because the water does kind of like, it's a solvent. It strips out like, molecules.
It sounds like it
all
would be
that
more
stuff.
detrimental for the water-only grower, salt grower. It shouldn't.
You're
affect them
always
as much.
adding stuff.
You're
But
always
for sure,
remineralizing.
for sure. It in like in an organic water only setting, such as like my own kind of system, I don't use RO water or distilled water, right? But I do use dehumidifier water sparingly, knowing that it is in essence distilled water.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Yeah,
it's fine as long as I look at my dehumidifier every couple weeks, just like, all right, is there mold growing in here? Like, what's the state of this machine? Like, I take an inspection every now and then, guys, which is what I recommend you do if you're going to use your dehu water. But it's fine. It's fine. It's just like, don't use just that. I don't know, but you can use it. I just dump it right into the res, man. Nothing to it.
honestly, I've done it myself before. So it doesn't really matter too much. It's not as long as they're not using it as a full-time water source.
I mean,
and if you are, you have to be mindful of it. That's all.
Yeah, if you are, shit. I mean, why not just have like a pump set up from the bucket your dehu empties into to go right into your auto pot res? Bing, bang, boom.
Yeah, you just have to be mindful that you could fucking
kill everything.
You could. I know. That's with growing in general. Just be careful. You could kill everything.
If you want to filter your water, those little garden hose filters, I think you can even buy them at Home Depot. Work fucking pretty great. And they're like $10-15. Yep. And most people with a cheap adapter can hook up a garden hose to the kitchen sink. Quite easily.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
Do you have to like discuss that with your spouse before, or do you just do it? And
no, you just do it. You
for
go out
mercy?
and you buy one of the best collapsible hoses you can buy. Like, find a good one. There are some good ones. Those hoses get a bad rap, but if you buy a decent one with like metal fittings on it, I love those things. I think they're great.
All right.
You know what I'm talking
Consider
about?
like
Taking
whatever
notes.
people use for campers and stuff. They connect to a water source, so they use often collapsible hoses with inline filters.
Yep.
And it
And
just hooks right up, and then it's potable for humans. So
yeah,
good for plants.
inline water filters that they're real cheap. You can look them up on Amazon. They're just look for a garden hose water filter or RV water filter, and they connect right to a garden hose. You can even dual stage them if you want, like stack two of them together. Yeah, they're
That's
cheap.
badass,
They're
actually.
cheap and effective,
Cool.
and for like $30-$40, you could be up and running with a garden hose and some carbon filters.
Sounds good, man. All right, so here's a question I wanted to ask. Do autos need a dark period?
I have mixed feelings about this.
No, they're not going to die if they don't have one. Should they? Yes. All living creatures need to rest.
I've done it both ways. I've done 20 and 4.
Push them hard, G3.
We could. They're not going to be happy though.
Like high speed autoflowers. If we put them in cocoa and we feed them some Athena from the time they're 3 days old, we're gonna push them hard, right?
You can
get some CO2 in that grow room, up the ppfd. Can I?
Yep.
I mean,
You can.
I can run those fuckers 24/0, right? No mercy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can.
I've done both, and I can considerably tell you that I've noticed no difference in the plant's state of happiness. I've never done scientific research on like yield or anything like that, but autoflowers under 24-hour light, they don't really give a flying fuck.
I think they do.
It's easy to think that way, but no, they don't generally give a flying fuck. You will notice though that at a certain point, like the plant is gonna droop no matter what. At one point in the day. The reason why I would always advise most new autoflower growers to run a 24-hour light cycle is because they're never prepared for that dark cycle where the humidity spikes or it gets too cold, one or the other, or both, and they end up with issues. And that's what's actually appealing to most autoflower growers is they don't have to worry about that. But
that's a good point. That's a great point, actually. Like, by introducing a dark period, seems just, it's totally natural. Lights go off. Everything else stays the same. Lights just go off. No, not how it works. Humidity spikes, right? Like, there starts to be, like, more microclimates in and around your plant. Just, like, in between leaves, you'll get, like... Sometimes you'll come in the morning and you'll see like just dew underneath like 2 leaves. They weren't even touching, but they were too close in the dark period.
But plants have different processes during light and day as well. Or light and, oh my God, day and night as well.
But
lights and not lights.
But do autos that's the thing. Do autos
there's still plants. Usually in dark times when creatures rest, that's when they repair.
Creatures.
So creatures, living
I know.
beings.
Just play.
So
but it's like
humans and plants alike, they heal when they sleep, when they rest. So, maybe
but they don't grow.
But how much if they're not able to repair? How well are they able to grow in the long run if you're pushing a constantly injured and stressed out plant?
I honestly so I don't know. Like that's making that you're anthropomorphizing autoflowers right now.
I don't think so. I think that because plants have different processes at night. I'm not saying that hey,
you're putting
just
all sorts
humans,
of human qualities on them. Like I'm stressed out if I don't sleep. I'm cranky.
Are plants stressed? That's a common term that we use for plants, right?
don't
Autoflowers
know.
get stressed and then they don't grow. If you stress your plants, they're going to stunt a little bit.
But
so
how
I'm
do plants
saying,
feel stress? That's like, it's just like, I don't know. And honestly, I don't know if autoflowers being like kind of immune to that light cycle.
okay, if you
Because,
defoliate a plant, doesn't it have to repair that site?
man, you're stealing my questions now. I don't know. That's a great question.
So it has to repair,
Oh.
right? So when does it best repair? When it's being pushed hard to do all of the things it should be doing when it's growing under the light cycle? Or does it best repair when those systems are kind of shut down a little bit? It can focus what energy it has at that time on repairing, get all of its systems back up online, and then you can push hard when the lights are on. All things need to rest.
Listen, I agree with you, G3. I do. I always have given my autos a dark period. For better or worse. And it's not a long one. It's like I do 20 on, 4 hours off, right? But it's just to save a little, money on the electric bill.
You can do 23 on and 1 off if you want to. Or if you really, really want to push light all the time, maybe give it a dim period instead of a dark period to encourage some of those processes that happen at night to occur a little more readily, even with the lights on, and still encourage that growth. But at some period, I think the plant needs to rest.
I'll agree with that. I will. We can grow autos in 24 hours on, 0 off. And perhaps for, like Monsta said, perhaps for a new grower who doesn't quite know how to master their environmental parameters yet, and they're struggling with high humidity or low temps in the dark period, it is beneficial to just eliminate that variable. So, like, it's you can do it. Like, yeah, I would agree that, like, it's probably not best for your plant. And they can, like, here we got Strong Island in the chat, mentions it right there. Things happen. Like, we mentioned it. Things happen when the plant's in darkness, and they do actually grow. Like, you'll notice when you come in after a dark period, like, holy shit, what those things did when they were asleep. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I look at it like a person, like, you need to rest to grow, to heal, to do all the things that a creature needs to do. So
anthropomorphize your plants, people.
It
can only lead to good things.
I don't think it's a bad thing to necessarily do that, but like, we all do that to a certain extent, don't we?
I mean,
she's stressed out. She's so stressed. Like, no, maybe you're just stressed and you're projecting that on your plants.
I've done it both ways, and I really don't think that it stresses the plant out at all. I would have to disagree with you both on that one. I don't think that the juice is worth the squeeze to do it. I'm not encouraging you to grow your plants in 24 hour unless you're really having a hard time with that dark period. There's just give them at least a little bit of a rest, and that's just for your fucking light bill. I mean, it's ridiculous to really have to do that if you need to.
Yeah, if you don't.
But I will say some of the biggest autos I've grown were straight up just under 24 hour light, and they just if you ask the boys over at Mephisto, the pioneer of autoflowers, in my opinion, you can love them or hate them at this point, you know what I mean? But if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be fucking with autoflowers right now. I can promise you that. They grow all their gear under 24 hours.
I think you're right, actually. In their grow guide, which I've downloaded from their site, I believe that they do 24 on, 0 off. But
they do.
Because they had issues with humidity spikes and cold temperatures.
They have a lot of plants. I mean, there's a benefit.
That's the thing with autos. You can do it.
You can do it. That does not mean you should. It means you can. So just chill for a minute. Think about what you're doing, people.
Just do what's best for you.
Yeah, right. Do what's best for you. Exactly. All right.
I would encourage somebody that has the patience to do a scientific experiment, and see how it goes.
I would too. All right. So I want to touch real quick on defoliating.
Okay.
A lot of people say, oh, that's like you want to remove as many leaves as possible when they flower to promote bud growth, to give all the flowers nice, room in the sun. You also hear people say, oh, the leaves are the solar panels. Leave as many of them as possible in order for the plant to just photosynthesize and do its thing. Where do we stand on defoliation? Is it a good thing? Should we knock it off?
I generally remove any leaf that I see is blocking a bud site. And that's it, I don't go crazy with defoliating, and then I'll lollipop. But 99% of those big ass fan leaves that you're looking at are covering up a potential bud site to get more light. You'll even notice it after you take it off, the growth underneath is a lighter shade of green because it's not getting quite as much light. You take that off, and then that's going to shoot up and give you more growth. So I like to say selective defoliation. I don't believe in taking every fucking leaf off possible. Like you see that schwazzing method.
Lollipopping and stuff.
They take every single leaf off, and then the funny thing is you notice leaves will just grow back. You wouldn't even know that it happened. I don't believe in the whole solar panel thing because it's proof. I've seen people take every single leaf off the fucking plant, and I still watch buds explode and grow.
That's a good point.
But I don't think you need to be that extreme with it personally. I may be a little bit more aggressive than your average person, but I don't go on the super aggressive side either. I think people go a little too far with their defoliation. I try to get most of it done while the plant is still in its stretch phase, its grow phase, because that's when it's so vigorous, right? That it can really kind of take that abuse of defoliating. And then after that, it's really just at that point, if I see something, like I said, covering up a bud or something, that I don't go crazy. You'll notice though, if you have, let's say you have a room and it's sitting at 75-80% humidity, and you go there and you take a shitload of leaves off and you close the door, shit will drop. So good for airflow, good for humidity too, not just how big your buds are going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. Agreed with, I would say 100% of what you just said. How about you, G3? What do you do as far as defoliation?
There's I think there's a Goldilocks zone for sure. I hate to take leaves off my plants, but I have to do it because where I live is super humid, and if I don't, the plant will be miserable. I do prefer to tuck leaves as much as I can, but if I see a leaf is used up, if it's one of the first original, off the main stem, big fan leaves, and it's towards the later part of flower, those leaves are cooked. They're not doing much, if anything, anymore, except blocking light. So at that point, I'll definitely take them. And some plants need it more than others. I have this little chubby Phantasmo who is just a bush, and if I don't clear out her leaves, she's going to be a nightmare later and just bud rot. So needs must.
Good point.
I'm glad you mentioned tucking though. That's a great method, leaf tucking. If you're not sure on which leaves to take off or not, you can oftentimes just take that leaf and tuck it under and expose the bud site that was covered up without completely taking it off.
Be a tucker, not a taker.
Well, you gotta be careful with that too much, because then you have leaf on leaf crime. and you can get like water and mildew and stuff like that. So just gotta be careful. That's all.
Like a leaf on leaf crime.
I like that.
Yeah, no, you guys raised all the points. I mean, there's certainly a Goldilocks zone, and like I will always tuck before I take, but I do take, like, I like to lollipop my plants, even my autos.
Is all the way up though?
Not
Or do
all
you
the
just
way
take like
up,
the
no.
bottom third?
It's
Because I don't
really,
consider that lollipop.
yeah, it's after. Usually, it's after. Right, I always know like the first nodes on your branches never reach the top, guys. Like, just cut them off. Cut them off.
First two usually.
I mean, I give the second a fighting chance. G3 just nips them right in the bud from the start. But like, I at least always take the first. But I do like the lollipop, but I always leave. I am more in the camp of leave as many leaves as possible, while being mindful that if you defoliate more, it will certainly help you control your environment. And also that what Monsta said, which I've noticed myself, is that even a plant without leaves will photosynthesize. It will develop buds.
That's what re-vegging's all about.
Any leaves. And so like the buds themselves photosynthesize, or the sugar leaves that are in the buds, like it grows more of those if it knows it doesn't have any leaves. I'm just saying, it doesn't need leaves. But I'm just like, I'm more in the just mess with the plant as little as possible kind of thing. I like to defoliate as little as possible, and I also, what was the thing we were talking about earlier? Like giving them a dark period. Like, you don't have to, but it's seemingly more natural, right? So, yeah, I don't know. You could, but again, grow however suits you, right?
You do you.
You do you, guys. But now how about when we get towards the end of our grows, okay? Organic or synthetic. One of the things we always hear people arguing about is flushing. How does flushing relate to your final product? The like color of the ash. I always hear people talking about, like, if you don't flush, you're going to have black ash. It's not going to be a clean smoke. Is that true?
No.
With that.
Emphatically no.
So what's flushing altogether?
First of all, let me put it to you like this. Like, if I give you a bunch of fucking Butterfingers and you eat them, right? And I then in turn feed you water and remove said Butterfingers from your body?
Like a detox?
Yeah, like,
I mean, sure.
It's in a way, but it doesn't work that way. Your body's already utilized it, like it's gone to fat or whatever, right? Like,
the Butterfinger has already become you.
It's the same thing with the plant. Like, the thing is there was a study done, and you can look it up, and it's been common. Just look for cannabis flush study, and it was a legit study. They took multiple different stages of weed: flushed, non-flushed, completely fed to the end, right? And the consensus actually was that the people preferred the weed that was fed till the end. Okay, and they noticed no discernible difference in the ash and how it burned. The ash and how it burns is all in the dry. And I'll tell you that emphatically 100%. How you dry and cure your cannabis is how that ash will burn. No, but here's why the same study also took into account how plants grew and how they grew at the end. And they also said that at the last couple of weeks of life, the plant isn't utilizing much fertilizer anyway. So there's a couple of reasons to back it off and maybe I don't like to use the word flushing really, but whatever. Let's just use that for argument's sake, okay? Why I'm going to tell you why you still should flush. And you don't have to go for 2 weeks. That's fucking ridiculous. Okay? But I will say for like the last week or so, maybe week and a half if you want to go crazy, if you're feeding salts, you want to kind of starve that plant for a couple of reasons. One, like I said, it's not going to be utilizing that nutrient much anyway. And two, guess what? You're removing chlorophyll from your plant. You're introducing senescence, fade. And sometimes you don't even have to do this. Some plants will just do it on their own anyway. Even if you're pushing them, they're just like, I've had enough. I'm done. But that's going to end in a better final product because you don't have to then leach as much out during the dry. That's how I feel about it.
Boom. What? How about you, G3? Do you flush anything?
No.
First of all, what is flushing? Like, what do I mean when I say flushing?
So
what are we
there's
talking
like
about?
from what I heard, there's kind of two different things that are involved in flushing, and one is tapering your nutrients at the end to basically what Monster said, starve out your plants for the last couple of weeks and just give them straight water. And then some people actually like flush their plants and will just pour gallons of water through them, which I always figured was like a reset when for salt growers when things went funky and you needed to like you're like I don't know how to fix this, hit the reset button, flush that bitch. But like at the end, I don't know, seems kind of pointless.
Yeah, and that's the only time I will promote like a flush. Like if you're having issues like a lockout issue in organics and it's all fucked up and you can't figure out what's going on, just pour as much water as you can through the plant and try to flush out what you can. That can be a double-edged sword in organics, because then you're like basically force feeding the plant in some ways. But definitely in cocoa, if you're having issues and you can't figure out why, even in autopots, like I tell you guys, don't water from the top. But if you're having issues and you have to just keep in mind
Always
that
flush.
you got to pour a shitload of water to the top where you're getting like a real flush. If you just feed from the top, you're going to fuck things up. But if you like flush from the top, put the plant back in, you'll be fine.
Yeah, gotcha. And you just get a shit ton of runoff. Everything in the medium theoretically comes out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Start from
pH
zero.
water.
Yeah. And that's like, I think when most people say flush, I don't know. That's what I think. Like it's kind of like a panic button thing. Like, oh shit, I messed up feeding wise. I need to start over. Or I got lockout. In organic world, we don't like to do that ever really. Like I don't even like to see runoff half the time or all the time. I keep what's in the pot in the pot. You're never gonna like experience the type of lockout we're talking about. You just, I don't know, keep everything in balance, let's say, in organics. But I think Monsta made a great point, which is that a lot of people think by flushing towards the end of the grow, they're gonna like get something out of the plant that like is gonna give them an undesirable taste. Whether that's some like nutrient residue or I don't know what the thought process is, because like, again, if you eat a bunch of Butterfingers, does that make you the Butterfingers then? Like yes,
the plant's only been eating
like,
salts the entire time it's been living. All of a sudden changing the last 2 weeks is going to change something.
Yeah. Like
the building blocks are made of that.
Exactly. And let's assume by then you've been salt feeding the whole time and like you haven't flushed ever. And like your plant's this nice, like shiny green color. That's just like, maybe it's even got some of those curled over leaves and you're seeing a little nitrogen toxicity. It's like, it's too late to get that shit out of the plant. Like you're not going to like wash that out by flushing. But at the same time, I don't know if that's necessarily going to cause a bad taste. Like we could argue about that. I mean, yes and no, but getting back to what Monster said, which is the point, is that what you want to do, and what I really think counts, but if we're talking about taste, is getting as much chlorophyll out of the plant as possible. And by doing so, like making the plant senesce and start to fade, and like eating the nutrients that are in the plant itself. That's what we are actually, when people are like, oh, I gotta flush. Isn't that what they want? The plant to eat the nutrients from within itself? Well, that's senescence, my friends. You need to start like tapering nutrients earlier, and you need to dial back your nutrient program, maybe even before you start thinking about that. Because if your plants aren't fading, there's going to be too much chlorophyll. And I do think that affects flavor. So there is something to it, maybe.
Yeah, and maybe that comes down to final product flavor in the end, the senescence. Maybe that's what a lot of salt growers aren't doing. So I don't know.
Perhaps, yeah.
Or the other thing, you could go the other way. Like, let's play devil's advocate here. Maybe they're flushing too much. Like, I hear if you ask most people how long to flush, they'll all tell you 2 weeks. 2 weeks. You're going to starve that plant for the last 2 weeks of its life, and just give it just water. I think that sounds just absolutely ridiculous. Like,
horrifying.
That's like, for instance, like we tell people all the time, like, oh, dude, you should have pushed that plant another couple of weeks. Why? Because it's going to fatten up. So it's definitely utilizing. Like, you just have to know when. Like, there's that fine line. Like,
these plants are grannies, they're at the end of their lives. You want to give Granny like a pudding cup, not starve her to death. Like, give her something small and little through the day. Like, less food, drop it down, sure, taper, less so they can eat less, but don't give her nothing.
All right, because I've heard.
Don't do that to Granny.
Because I've heard when they're at the end of their life, you want to stick a big kitchen knife through the stalk. And that enhances terpenes and gives bigger buds and more flavor. Isn't that true? Can we do that shit?
I don't know if it's true or
not.
But yeah, I think stuff like that.
Don't you want to go at Granny with a kitchen knife?
Yeah.
Makes her panic, and the panic is what actually creates all the good shit that we like in our flowers. The more panic we can induce in our plants, the more terpenes, the more flavonoids.
Trauma.
Norma brought a good word here. Leach. That's what you're doing essentially. Is you're leaching the nutrients from the soil itself. You're not removing the nutrients from the plant. You're removing them from the soil. Not So, come on. Let's just. And if you really think that the flavor of the herb is affected by the flush, I'm sorry, you're wrong, and I'll die on that hill.
Yeah,
it's all
in the dry.
It's dry and pure, and how you take care of it after the grow.
Yep.
All right. So speaking of dry, I think we can squeeze in another topic real quick here. Wet or dry trim? How are we doing this?
Why don't we let G3 lead it off?
I have a very specific procedure. I do a little bit of both.
Sure.
I do a little bit of both because I like to hang my plants as full plants instead of branches. I want to take off as many of the big, giant fan leaves as possible. Any of the little stuff, if it has trichomes on it at all, it stays on. I like those to kind of like wrap around my buds just a little bit and kind of protect them as they're drying. But I feel like the big ones add too much humidity and just you're asking for bud rot at that point. I have bud rot PTSD.
Right on.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I see Strong Island's comment, and I do want to ask that real quick. Before we talk wet or dry trim, what is our feeling on the dark period before chop, guys? I do think that is one of those questions, certainly.
Where did that even come from? What's the logic behind that?
I couldn't tell you, but
I think it's the same thing that we were literally just talking about, which is like, all right, it's kind of combining all the topics, right? Which is during a dark period, your plant does certain things. One of those things is it like puts all of the, let's just call them plant things that it makes in itself, like back down into the soil at night. It's like it goes up from the soil during the day, it goes down when the lights are off at night.
Okay.
By introducing a dark period, you are removing those plant things from the plant, which again, like is part of the senescence. It's part of taking all of that stuff out of the flower before we dry it to give us the best possible chance at having a great flavor. I think it all plays into it. You know, like, while there's certainly no need to like give it a 72-hour, even a 48-hour dark period, I always make sure that I harvest my plants during or like at the very end of like a normal dark period, because the plant like hasn't spent the last 12 hours, or if it's autos, right, 4 hours, just doing like putting all those things up into the plant. Now they're going back down. There's less of them in the plant. You're further ahead in your quest for Flavor Town. At least that's
I usually
how
do.
I look at it.
I usually do 2 days, and there was I think I don't even know if he's still active. Med grower, MD or whatever. I forget his name. He actually did a study on this scientifically with the same cultivar, one with like 24-hour darkness, one with no darkness, one with 48, and I think one with 72. And the consensus was the 48 hours increased THC by whatever, I forget how much it was, like close to 1%. But anything after that, after the 2 days, started degrading terps. And actually, too, there was a 0.3 decrease percentage in terpenes with the 48-hour darkness.
Interesting.
Here's the hard part about a 48-hour darkness, and this is what I would run into. If this was like SOP, and I thought that there was like actual reason to follow this, I would have difficulty with it, because I'm one of those people where I look at my plant and I go, oh shit, she's got to come down now. Like, all of a sudden, she's got exactly the right amount of amber. Like, she's got to be dropped immediately. I do not have time to fuck around with 2 more days. Like, that would make her way, way, way overdone. So you have to be 2 days early and know that your plant's going to be like at the right level, basically, in 2 days' time, in order to pull that off correctly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you may get like slightly more THC, but you're going to have more amber than you want.
Yeah. And as far as
the plant amber up in the dark,
100%, and especially after you chop too. Like, if you look at trichromes the day you chop, and then look at the same ones, if you could. I mean, it's pretty hard to do, but if you look at those trichromes afterwards, they'll be darker. Yeah. And actually, they say the perfect ripeness is right before they turn amber. So, like, as soon as I start seeing some amber on the buds themselves, not the leaves, that's usually when I'll, call it. Because I know that after like at least a 24-hour dark period, sometimes 2, and then especially after I cut them down, they're going to ripen up even more.
Truth. Truth. All right. Cool. So, dark period, not the most important thing in the world, but harvest during the dark.
Yeah, definitely don't harvest during a light period. Yeah.
Cool. So we're talking trim now. Like, I get it. Like, ultimately, trimming fucking sucks. Here's where I stand on wet versus dry trim. I'm no trim. Fuck it all together entirely. Put that shit in jars with as many leaves on it as possible. Just don't get mold, and flick them off when you need to smoke. Boom. I'm no trim. So I don't know, or like misfeed your plant on purpose towards the end of its life so it has as few leaves on it as possible. So we're not trimming. I am just staunchly no trim.
I spent a shit ton of time trimming your bud, sir.
I know. That's right. I'm no trim. You could do all the trim. No. I'm just playing. I just want as little work for me, for you, for everyone. Fuck trimming, man. It's literally like it makes growing like a big, huge harvest almost suck. It really does. It can take a lot of the joy out of it. So
There is a lot of joy to be found in a trim bin. I have to say.
Right? Yeah, okay.
If you're
Trim
trimming
bins.
and you don't have a trim bin, do yourself a favor and
Respect.
get one. Just the return on you get it when you open that up and you're like, oh, like Christmas morning. Amazing.
Which you won't get if you're wet trimming.
Right.
Just saying.
Yep. Another
Yeah,
good reason
I love it. I love
to
it.
dry trim.
One of the reasons we dry trim is so we can collect the keef off of what we trim in a device such as a trim bin. Which, yeah, agreed. Best $60 I ever spent, maybe, as a grower. I need another one or two.
Now? Damn.
Yeah, they're pricey,
$60.
but yeah,
But they're worth it.
They're good, really good.
I was crawling when I paid fucking 40 for them.
Yeah, the harvest right or harvest
You
right.
used to be able to
trim
buy
bin.
the 2-packs for $79.99 on
Harvest
Amazon.
more. Harvest right is the fucking freeze dry.
Freeze dry. Yeah, they used to be able to get 2-packs for $80 on Amazon.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I think mine was 60, but I probably paid for it in its first time of use.
Yeah, like they're still even 60. They're still worth it. And they're solid as a rock too.
When you collect that like mountain of keef off of your dry trim after you trim it, because dry trimming is the patrician's choice. Just saying. Anyone who knows anything about trimming their weed knows that we don't wet trim. Okay?
Yeah, I don't advocate wet trimming at all. But if you want, like, I don't consider what you're doing G3 wet trimming, like taking big fan leaves off.
Fan leaves off.
Yeah, it's still dry.
I mean, I've seen a lot of people that just like chop and flip them and they're done.
That's kind of how I do it, honestly.
Yeah, I got to take those big fan.
The last week or so, I'm taking a lot of those leaves off anyway, so there really isn't a lot. I just chop, flip, hang.
Aside from it just being like okay, this is what jives with my schedule. I need to chop the plant and trim it right the fuck now, and then hang it and then like bucket and put it in jars when it's dry. Aside from that being your reason, I don't see your motivation for wet trimming. It doesn't. There's no benefit because you're not going to get that mountain of keef from your trim bin. You're just not. And aside from that,
except sticky trimmers. Ugh.
Yeah, very sticky. And like it, yeah, like you said, G3, the leaves do protect the buds, the trichomes. Okay, like the leaves that'll like fold and dry kind of over the bud act as a little bit of like it's like a banana peel, like protecting what's underneath, shielding it from maybe light, I don't know, direct breezes in your drying tent. Like it's by leaving a couple leaves on your buds that like will fold down over the bud and make a nice little banana peel wrapper for them. Slows the drying process. In my opinion, gives you a better end product. Like it will increase your dry time. It will, and yeah, it kind of runs a little counterintuitive to the like, oh, we want to get as much chlorophyll out of the plant as possible. Well, hopefully you've done that by now. And the leaf isn't like bright green and it just, boom, folds right down over the thing. And like literally, once the thing's dry, a lot of times you can just flick a leaf off and it's good to go right into the jar. A lot of times. Depends on the plant.
Yeah, I
Some are
don't
leafier
recommend
than
jarring
others.
up with too much leaf material. It will like kind of inhibit the flavor. Like hanging with leaf is fine, but you don't want like if you're gonna jar it up, you got to kind of like do a little bit before you put it in. I think, or it's not gonna be and in the best product possible.
Word. But we're all we can all agree dry trimming is the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
If it jives with your schedule, at least, like try to make it jive with your schedule. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like after harvest is so fucking important. Like it's maybe more of your flavor is determined after harvest than it is pre. So like it all ties in. It all ties in. It's a comprehensive method. You want to do things slowly, deliberately. Let the plant kind of like, I don't know. You just let it figure itself out. Can't intervene too much. It's bad. It's bad.
Yep.
But
A hint for your trim bin. Put down a piece of parchment paper between them.
between what?
Between the two bins. If you put a piece of parchment paper down, they'll catch everything. And then instead of having to like scoop everything up, you just
Pour it.
right down.
Boom. Genius.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
I never thought of that. I don't know why. It's
Monster,
amazing.
you're muted.
Yeah, Monster, you muted.
My bad. Don't
No
use wax
worries.
paper.
No, parchment.
No.
They're not the same and they're not interchangeable.
No?
I've seen people press rosin with fucking wax paper.
Oh,
Yeah, just
Yikes.
no. They're not the same. Parchment paper and wax paper are not the same.
What happens when you press rosin with wax paper?
it melts.
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
melts.
God, I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
That can't be good for you.
No, and same thing with like I've seen people store hash in wax paper. Like, no, you just coated your shit with wax. Granted, it's food grade wax, but you're not meant to smoke that shit.
It's that good wax, man. That kind they make them Bath and Body Works candles from. Oh, wait, no, the Yankee
Don't
candle.
smoke those
That's what I
either.
mean.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I've smelled the best Yankee candles. I'll just like go up and like, oh yeah, give me that. It's like, don't even know. Call it like summer breeze, and it's just this indescribable scent. I mean, I don't know if it reminds me of a summer breeze, but it's pretty good.
Okay.
Okay.
You know,
Now I
that's
know
what
what to get you for Christmas.
that's what chemistry majors do. Like post graduation, they like figure out like what combination of chemicals makes the human brain think summer breeze, and then put it in a fucking candle.
Yeah,
Yep.
and ruin your olfactory.
That's what they do. But yeah, guys. So no, I want a little bit of before we go. Do we have any like moon info? G3. Is there anything going on in the planets that we need to be worried about?
There was a new moon last night. So full
New
moon is
moon.
on the 30th.
What does a new moon mean for?
New moon is, I mean, it's like the liminal moon. A lot of, it metaphysically means new beginnings, but like you wouldn't want to plant on a new moon necessarily. Though some people do. It's better to plant on a full moon, which is kind of backwards.
How
But-
often do we have
yeah.
a full moon?
Every 28 days.
So, like, you want the gravity from the moon, in
Mhm.
my understanding, right? Like pulling the plant.
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
why
the-
it's kind of reverse. Like new moons, it metaphysically mean new beginnings, but you don't want to plant then because on the full moon, that's when the gravitiness keeps like all the water at the surface where the seed is.
Okay. So, all right, like I guess it makes sense in a kind of counterintuitive way. Like if a new moon means new beginnings, then maybe we want to harvest during a new moon if possible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could, if it's a new moon is 2 weeks after a full moon, so you have like a 2-week-old seedling. Technically, that's new beginnings.
Okay, true. True.
Yeah, I still, even though I follow a lot of that stuff, I definitely plant my seeds on full moons.
How about a waxing gibbous?
Sure.
Get the same effect?
I mean, depending on how close different things are, different phases mean different things. So it's like the wheel of the year
The
or
tides? Do the tides matter?
Yeah,
Like
it's
neap
well,
tide,
tides are
spring tide?
are by the moon, so that's kind of all wrapped up in the same thing. That's why the tides move, is because the full moon like pulls tides up higher, and then tides go in and out like at specific times every day. Follows the circle of them as the moon moves around. It's gravity pulls it.
All right. So here, I mean, just might sound like truly some people like roll their eyes at this stuff, but however, consider this: like there's like I don't know how much of a plant is water. I'm sure a lot of it is, just like the human body is mostly water, right?
And like 70 some percent.
Right,
Humans are like 70 some percent water.
Right? You're 3/4 water. Isn't that nuts? So like think about like you know the place in the world where like the strongest tidal flow happens. It's like between like high and low tide. It's just like difference of like 40 feet. Like boats are like ground themselves and then like be high up in the water. It's a little bit north of you, Monston, like the Bay of Fundy in Canada. Like, there's like the craziest currents as the tide goes out, and when it comes in, it's the same fucking thing. The moon controls all of this. Like it affects water more than you might think. The moon is what controls the tides. If the moon can do all that, and you are, and your plant is 75% water or more, then maybe start thinking about the moon.
I mean, anybody who's been around people or animals during the full moon know that people go a little crazy. Like if you work in retail or in the service industry at all and it's a full moon, you brace yourself for those shifts because you know it's going to be nuts.
Full moon Black Friday. Oh, motherfucker. That was the worst shift I ever worked in retail. All the lunatics came out.
It affects everything. So it definitely affects your plants as well. So yeah, blue moon, super moon on the 30th.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we'll have a show before then, but yeah, you can get your stuff ready now.
Cool. Got any like DIY tips or tricks for us in your back pocket there, Monster?
No, but I have a little service announcement. Clean your fucking fans. I can't tell you how many grows I've walked into and I see people's fans.
That's something.
And they're just caked with dust and dirt. And here's the thing. What you don't realize is, guess what? That fan is now using more power because it's trying to spin at the same speed that it's programmed to, and it can't. So it's literally drawing more juice, which inherently will end up burning it out quicker. So you're getting less air and paying more for it because you're fucking lazy. So clean your fans, and you'll get more out of them. Amen.
They're made to be opened and cleaned. Like that's part of the design.
I actually removed
just, like,
the front
spray 'em
covers
with
off all
dust
my
off?
fans. The front covers are all off. Just take them off. Easier that way. You'll get more airflow too, but don't remove the back cover. You need that back pressure from the back cover. So don't remove the back cover. But I always remove the front, especially on the hurricane fans.
Yeah.
I throw it out and never goes on.
Just don't get your finger caught in it.
No, it will hurt. Or your beard. when you're up top trying to
Ooh, yeah.
do shit.
Yeah,
Ooh.
hair.
Yep.
If you have one of those metal blade fans, especially, don't get your
Forget about it.
Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh.
actually
Snip it
won't
right
do
off.
that on a metal blade fan. That's stupid.
Always keep your grate on in that sense. But
Yeah.
Yikes.
that's a good tip. That's a very good tip. And as important as it is to clean fans, it's also important to clean your like filters, air conditioner filters, which you reminded me I gotta go do right after this show.
Dehumidifier filters. Yeah, check all your air filters.
Filters and fans for sure. That's our
They put
tip
them
of the
on for a
week.
reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because then they make them like accessible so you can go clean them.
Yep.
Right. Especially in the summertime when you're like AC's running, you always want to make sure your filters are clean. So cool, guys. Cool. Yeah, we don't have any new Patreons. That's fine. But we do have a Patreon. If y'all are like a new listener or something and you like the show, you feel like you want to support us, go check us out. And thank you guys, listeners, Patreons, non-Patreons.
We actually do have a new Patreon. I don't know if you mentioned last week, was Sensei Salamander.
Did I not?
I don't know.
Well, if I didn't, I apologize.
Well,
What's
thank
up,
you, and
Sensei?
welcome to the
Thank
crew.
you, thank you, Sensei. Thank you very much.
Cool name,
Yeah,
by the
man.
way.
Sorry if I didn't mention that. Yeah, guys, that's how we keep the lights on. It's how we keep the show afloat. And thank you guys for watching, for listening. We appreciate all your support. Come check us out on Discord. We're all hanging out there usually. We all do have Instagrams too. You can reach us most either place.
Love that. Instagram. Wah, wah.
Hey man, it's kind of not the place anymore. I don't know. It's so strange. Like it used to just be like no question. IG was the place to be, but like I don't know. We could discuss that next episode. Sure.
Let's
Till
not.
then, guys. Till then. Adios and don't get caught.